This tale of love and values unfolds in the class-conscious England of the late 18th century. The five Bennet sisters, including strong-willed Elizabeth and young Lydia, have been raised by their mother with one purpose in life: finding a husband. When a wealthy bachelor takes up residence in a nearby mansion, the Bennets are abuzz. But when Elizabeth meets up with the handsome and, it would seem, snobbish Mr. Darcy, this battle of the sexes is joined.
Thank you. It's so great to be out here tonight. Oh, thank you. This is such an honor.
In order to understand what feminism is, you have to understand the 19th century patriarchal society and the gender norms during that time. First, we will talk about the women. Women during this era were known to be weak, submissive, timid, domestic, illogical, emotional, and dependent. Men were thought to have nature suited to the public world, while women were to the private world. Women in this era mainly depended on their fathers or husbands or any male figure in their life for guidance. Many of the girls in the Bennet family may not always seem to follow these previously set out stereotypes. One of them specifically is Mary Bennet. According to Laura Guggenheim in Gender in Pride and Prejudice, Mary is virtuous, obedient, but she is certainly not sensible or well-mannered. However, there is Jane Bennet, the eldest daughter of all the Bennets. Jane possesses most, if not all, of the qualities that the early 19th century English citizens believed a woman should. She is beautiful, respectful, wise, and most importantly, virtuous. Next, let's talk about the men. The men were known to be powerful, active, brave, and independent. Note that almost all of these characteristics are mutually exclusive. Women were thought to be more pure, innocent, and morally superior to men. However, they were also more easily corrupted. Although there are many men in this story who reflect these characteristics, Charles Bingley is an almost perfect specimen of 19th century masculinity. According to Ashley Tochert in Pride and Prejudice, Lydia's Gape, Charles Bingley is charming, well-mannered, and most importantly, he was in the upper class, so he was overall very wealthy. Likewise, a charming, well-mannered, and rich man would be an example of an almost perfect specimen in the 21st century as well. I believe even if one of the female characters, such as Charlotte, Elizabeth, or Jane, were known to have these qualities, they would most likely not be as idealized as Charles Bingley because they are all women, and women are inferior to men.
Oh, I didn't see you there. Mr. Bennet, although very wealthy and powerful, is unable to perform his duties as a father and a husband.
Mr. Bennet is unable to act as a father because he cannot respect his family's needs. Mr. Bennet is obviously quite negligent and only seems to care for himself. For men, this would not seem so out of the ordinary, but for women, this would be completely unacceptable. All the sisters in the Bennet family share one goal in common, and that's to find a husband. They will discover that, when finding a husband, they'll come across certain issues having to deal with money and class. It almost seems that the men and women in this story who possess the most feminine and masculine qualities seem to work out the best in terms of marriage. Going back to Charles Bingley, it is no wonder he and Jane fell in love because they both embody the same gender characteristics that are appropriate to each member of their sex. However, Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth are very different because they go through different transformations throughout the story. Darcy begins the novel lacking nearly all male qualities. Darcy's behavior at the ball, where Jane and Bingley become acquainted, marks him as haughty and proud. Elizabeth even accuses him of failing to behave in a gentlemanlike manner. After Elizabeth's accusation, he is able to reflect on the ways in which he has failed to behave as a gentleman should. These reflections lead to his eventual transformation, and when he renews his marriage proposal to her in an honest, unaffected, and gentlemanlike manner, his alteration is complete. Elizabeth's transformation is a bit different, however. According to Darrell Jones, Elizabeth embodies most of the feminine qualities Jane possesses, though she lacks her sister's mildness and can be quick to criticize others. Once she receives a letter from Mr. Darcy that details his prior relationship with George Wickham, she begins to recognize and correct her flaws. She then is able to make a very happy and prosperous match. Each of her younger sisters and every significant female character in the novel strays far from this ideal. Because of this, they are all unable to achieve their own marital happiness. Overall, the story of Pride and Prejudice greatly reflects the patriarchal society that was present during Austen's time. The issue of feminism and gender roles are still well known in today's society, and although they are not as divided as they were in Austen's time, they are still a topic to be talked about.